Hello, Great Works class, and thank you for listening to my presentation. In these slides, I will be taking on the theme of obsession as it relates to James Baldwin's Sonny's Blues and Virginia Woolfe's Solid Objects. For my thesis, I believe that both of these characters value their obsession so greatly, Sonny with music and John with items, because they feel that they are the only things that keep them grounded. With everything else about their lives struggling to stay afloat, they are both shown to use their methods, not just for escapism, but as tactics to keep themselves rooted to solid ground. Unsatisfying life. Throughout the story, Sonny is struggling to be taken seriously with his profession in music, and John is rather stressed out with his, as we can see in the beginning. Both are struggling to maintain the public image of productivity, despite their ongoing desire not to. The only real happiness that either of them derive from their lives are what is perceived by others as a vice. In the beginning of Sonny's Blues, we learn that Sonny has been apprehended by the police for using and selling heroin. Though the narrator is worried for his brother, he is not necessarily surprised. And from that fact alone, we are given a hint as to how Sonny is. Many of the young men that the narrator teaches, using drugs to distract from how untethered they feel to real motivation. Sonny is ashamed of his actions, but does not believe himself strong enough to change. With John in solid objects, he already supposedly has his station of purpose to motivate him, but the security he might have felt in pursuing that path seems to have worn off. What might have brought him to the beach with Charles could have well just been a trip to let off steam. Even the way they are introduced could have shown John's lack of path. First described as a formless creature in Virginia Woolfe's typical fashion, with two legs, only do we zoom out and does the creature reveal itself in the end as a man who does not know what he's meant to be doing with his life. Hobby to profession. Sonny's hobby starts off as playing the piano until he gets more and more devoted to it, as does John with finding the sea glass. Both the blues and collecting symbolize escapism from reality. Both men stray away from traditional careers in society, pursue their sources of escapism. When Sonny tells his brother about his hope to become a jazz musician, the narrator's knee-jerk reaction is disapproval, out of worry for his brother's reputation and security. But the declaration only drives Sonny deeper into his career choice. When Sonny is kicked out of the narrator's house after his family learns that he hasn't been going to school, he grows distant from them and throws himself into his music. With John, his switch is made in a much more solitary manner after he finds the sea glass. He subsequently becomes interested in finding other artifacts like it, haunting shops for knickknacks and wandering London, until he finds the piece of porcelain. So enamored by it, he ends up missing his train to work in trying to retrieve it through a fence. The objects which John finds have no discernible connection in their being, other than being small pieces hidden within the cracks of the world, perhaps he may feel, only for the purpose of him finding them. Though Charles knows his obsession, it is completely alone that John devotes himself to finding these objects, not seeming to care when he is moving down the ladder of his profession. Youthfulness. We see youthfulness in Johnny struggling to find his niche when he was young, being described as a quiet kid with not much direction by the narrator, but only music seems to stick to him with how devoted he becomes to it. In the beginning of the story, we see John feeling young again when he is digging through the sand, also a possible metaphor for hitting rock bottom. We come to think of happiness in a child's worldview as the only pure form that we can find in this world. When the narrator takes some time, we receive insight odds for life. Neither had Mary left the futures, or examples to see for what they could do with them. But as children, they hadn't been worried about that. Only when they grew up did they feel how much it affected them, and did they try to make the most of it. For Sonny, that was through music, because of how happy it made him in contrast to his brother, who got his job to maintain respectability and order. In this way, Sonny remains young at heart in his mentality, and holds on to that through jazz, believing that people ought to do what they want, for else what are they alive to do? John feels young when he is searching, as seen when we first met him on the beach. He shoves his hand into the sand, as many did when they were young, searching for treasure, for something he doesn't know if he'll find. One could take this metaphor as hitting rock bottom at a point in his life when he's supposed to have everything figured out, because, well, he's quite literally reaching for a different purpose, though he does not know it yet. So he searches for the simple things that he had when he was young, something that he lost long ago. Slow spiral. The more Sonny grows to love music, the more lengths he goes to connect with it, as is shown when he runs away from his family and joins the band instead, who he treats as his second. John's fixation on the sea glass expands when he finds the porcelain piece, which pushes him further down the rabbit hole of finding more pieces like it. Both continue on their path, despite the disapproval of John's friend and Sonny's brother. Both men see their missions, despite their differences, as their sort of true purpose for life. After Sonny's hope for his profession is rejected by his brother, he flees to the Navy and later joins the band to make up for the loss. We find out through the narrator that when they reconnect, that sometimes to play music, Sonny returns to his heroin addiction. Though he doesn't use it frequently, he sees it as a way to immerse himself in the sound of the blues, to keep himself stable, rather than admitting it as a relapse. John finds the sea glass. His worries for his political career dissipate, as he becomes enchanted by these strange, beautiful objects that only he has the eye to find. And as we follow him through his need to collect more and more, he gives up on maintaining any official or social facade. Even though he is sometimes disappointed by what he finds, he is lured in deeper into the path to find one more object that strikes his curiosity, reminding him of how he felt when he found the china in the sea glass. He dives, but only makes him happy. Factor of purpose. We can see that when the narrator first comes to watch him perform, Sonny feels most himself and most communicative when he is performing. John sees himself in the imperfect, broken objects which he finds, which he perhaps receives solace from, way that he cannot receive from another person. They use their odd niches to reconnect with themselves, a self that maybe they've lost somewhere along the way in their long runs of their lives. Sonny believes that people should be alive for the things they love to do, and so he sees music as inherently his purpose for living. When the narrator goes to hear Sonny play, he hears the suffering it's going words that he can't say to him through just speech. And he sees the joy and life that music gives, and it moves the narrator to tears. Though their lives and purposes remain different, they absolve their differences out of love for each other. Though John does not get the same level of understanding from his friend Charles, he is still devoted to his career in politics and ultimately decides to leave John when he sees how far he's gone. John does not feel remorse. Though others view his precious life as a rabbit hole he's wasted of his life going down, he's found his purpose and livelihood in using them to reconnect with himself, seeing himself in them, as pieces adrift in the world until they are caught and made beautiful by someone else's eyes. In conclusion, despite not being fully accepted by society, both Sonny and John have reached the point in their lives in which they accept themselves in finding an unorthodox way to feel young and spirited again. With the history of blues, transfer one into sound and share with other people. Sonny finds that kind of youth and spirit in being able to share his music with people who think the same of it as him. Though the solace is different for John, the pieces he finds do carry symbolism with them. Green sea glass represents stability in common myth. China being broken off a piece of a whole object has now been shattered by someone who is supposed to love it. And the iron he finds is something dull put upon by the wear and tear that the world had worn into it. Both of these characters, despite their differences, and through their obsessions, find their wills to live again, if only just in facets of places where they can. Thank you for listening.